What's up YouTube, Dead Draw here. So today we're going to be going over my X and 2 deck profile from regionals. So I ended up getting 12th place. Unfortunately wasn't able to make the top 8. Who knows if they're like, you know, if ties had gone differently and stuff in that last round, maybe I could have topped, but we aren't here to talk about that. We are here to talk about my matchups and what happened in my deck profile and everything that, you know, what I think I'll change going forward, etc. So we're going to go over the deck profile first. I won't explain too much, but we got Ash, best normal summon in the deck. Obviously it is just insane. It gets you so much combined with Poplar. It's just nutty. One oak, I feel like only one oak's necessary. I feel like the deck recycles really well and continues playing the game really well. 2 Poplar, I think that you don't need 3. 2 is probably the perfect number in the Pure or in the Fire King version. It doesn't matter. Poplar is just, you know, it generates a lot of advantage. It searches you a card and summons itself. It's insane, but normaling it on its own usually isn't very good. So yeah, 2 Flamberge, I think that you definitely need 2 in this version. It comes up like your main combo, you'll be using both of them most of the time. So 3 Witch, you want to play the game. Any way to play the game is a great way, so you want to have 3 of her. Yes, sometimes it can be a bit clunky, and I did see her too much, but at the same time, she's part of your 2-card combo, which is really important. And then she's just really good overall. Like I said, if you draw her and a bunch of hand traps, you're still playing, so that's good. 1 Jet Synchron, and that's all for the monsters, or the engine monsters. We'll get into the hand traps after. We play 3 Wanted because why not? 1 Divine Temple, you absolutely need this. I don't think you need 2, but one thing to say is this is the one card, like, you have no way, if it goes to the graveyard, gets banished, and you have no access to it, it's done. So it's a one and done for sure. Original Sinful Spoils, I don't think you need any more than that. And then we have the 3 Bonfire, of course, any way to get you to your Ash. And then the one of, or not the one ofs yet, but we got our 3 Triple Tactics Talents. I feel like this card is just insane with how many hand traps are going around right now. Going second, it's absolutely insane. I just felt like it's really good. And then we got 2 Clones. So once we get into the hand traps, you'll understand why we have some room. We're playing a little bit less hand traps than like some of the other Snake Eyes decks. I felt like Cosmic was going to deal with my local meta a lot better. I knew we had like a lot of Centurion players and stuff like that, and just having access to this game 1 is pretty good. You know, I played 2 Centurion last regional, so that's a big thing. And then yeah, I felt like it was just good in general. Against the mirror match, like banishing whatever they're trying to summon with the Flamberge is a big deal. It comes up in even against Fire King. It just felt like really good. Crossout Designator, we played the one of because we did play it with Called By. It was either 2 Crossout and but I felt like 1 Crossout, 1 Called By was kind of better. I felt like this is just going better, going second against like Fire King and something like that. But like I said, we played a little bit less hand traps, and like I had 1 slot left in the deck, and I was like, well, we'll just throw the Crossout there. And then Monster Reborn, it was either this or 1 for 1. We're on less hand traps, so I felt like 1 for 1 would be, you know, dead more. So like, you know, these are all spells that could be hand traps or other things. So I felt like 1 for 1 would just be dead more often than it's live, or like, you know, like you don't want to pitch the Snake Eye Ash or the 1 for 1 if you can just normal summon the Ash, right? So that's kind of how I felt about that. And then we have the hand traps, or the 3 Ash, 3 Nib, 3 Droll. We just want to go with the big impact ones, and 3 Imperm. This over Veiler, obviously, because it doesn't trigger off tactics. Honestly, these hand traps were all really good. I don't have any reason to bring out Nib out of this, but like Nibiru was really good all day. Everything was really good. There was nothing really bad. But the only thing is, like, what I'll say is Droll, for it to be good against like a Snake Eye deck, you need like a combination of Droll and Ash, like, or Droll and Imperm. Like, you kind of need this combination. Same thing goes with Nibiru. So like, I feel like maybe we should have had more hand traps in, but the theory, what I'm thinking is that maybe we lessen the hand traps that you kind of need two things to be good on. Like, that's what I kind of feel like. I feel like we might lessen the hand traps that you need two of them to be really good, like, you know what I mean? Because sometimes, like, imperm sometimes by itself is better than just a Nibiru by itself, right? So the theory is like Veiler could be better there. So I think we're gonna bump up hand trap count, but we also might like change how many hand traps we have in there that need to. I don't know. We'll kind of see how it goes, because, like, you know, I'm gonna do some testing, but that's kind of how we're feeling. We're gonna go into the extra deck now. So we played the 1 Baron, 1 Savage, 1 Formula. These are the only synchros we play. But the Jet Synchron gives us access to Formula Synchron, which gives us access to both of these. Jet Synchron also can be used with Witch to make the Boro load. It's part of the main 2-card combo. Yeah, these are pretty self-explanatory. They're all really good synchro cards, hence why we want to play the engine. 1 Link Freebo, 1 IP, 1 SP, 1 Hita, 1 Dark. Don't touch, like, this is mandatory for the deck. Don't touch any of these. I'd say these are mandatory for Pure Snake Eye, but these are just mandatory if you're playing any fire deck right now. You're playing all these cards, so don't get rid of them, okay? Nightmare Phoenix, this is an optional one. I just liked having the option to link off Promethean Princess to get Princess into the graveyard and stuff with the Phoenix. We have the Promethean Princess, of course. Ambo Whale, honestly, I think I resolved this maybe once. I made this often, but like, its other effects, just the fact that its fire was coming up. Appaloosa, I made this card like once. I think it was to help me play around Nib or something like that, but I don't make it on like against tactics or anything like that. Or sorry, I don't make it just randomly on their turn when I activate a monster effect with Talent Live. Giving your, like, making a 4 negate Appaloosa and giving that to your opponent with tactics is like the worst feeling in the world. You pretty much just lose the game because none of your other effects are going to resolve unless you have like some form of chain blocking. So yeah, I feel like this might even just come out of the extra deck going forward. It just doesn't seem to be made unless I'm playing around Nib and trying to go for game. But even then like a lot of time, if I can make her end play around Nib and go for game, it's kind of really hard. It's not gonna like be enough for game. So I don't know, it's kind of weird. And then we got the Raging Phoenix, Zelantis. These are really good for the OTK. And then Typhon, probably the worst card in my extra deck. I made it once or twice, and I lost both games. It felt like it was one of those desperation cards, and I felt like there was just no need for it. Even like making it sometimes at the end of my turn, like sitting on this with Flambers is not good, right? Because my Flamber is just negated. So I think this is gonna come out for sure. It was definitely the worst card, and I was only making it when I was losing. Yeah. So not the greatest. Okay, so we're gonna get into the side deck here. We got let's just move down my extra deck since we've already looked at that, just so the layer isn't so bad. Alrighty, so we got 3 Ghost Bell, we got 2 Veiler. So this was just like to put in more powerful hand traps versus people. Often the other hand traps wouldn't even come out, and I was just bumping up my hand trap count going second. Can honestly be moved probably to the main going forward. I think we're gonna see a lot of branded decks, a lot of branded with alongside the new ones, Voiceless Voice, and those decks can even go together, which is extremely powerful. And what I feel like is one of the biggest threats against Fire going into the next format, it would probably be Brandis Voiceless, or going into this format I should say. But yeah, I like, you know, this hits pre-prep and stuff like that as well. You can try to stop the low coming from the graveyard, which is a big part of their strategy. It just felt really good. Veiler is also really good into that matchup. Stopping like the Viner or something like that is essentially equivalent to stopping a Snake Eye Ash. It's very, very similar. The only thing is that they can play cards like Saravis to play around that card. And the thing is, they can actually search Saravis before they start their main combo with like pre-prep or something like that. So I think that you definitely got to be careful. And then we played the 1-up shifter. This was the cross out target. I just didn't want to lose to shifter decks. I might cut that going forward. I don't know. I do like it having at my locals. There's lots of people who love shifter decks, so and Cash was one of the non-top, one of the only decks that topped, that wasn't a fire deck. So yeah, 2 crossout designator. Going first, this card is really good right now. Stop their hand traps. If they don't end up having any hand traps, it's an Omni negate in the mirror match. Essentially, you stop their Poplar. You definitely want to call Poplar with this. Don't call Ash or something like that, making that mistake. Yes, Ash can get them into bigger things like Flamberge and stuff like that, don't get me wrong, but a lot of times, like, if they don't have that Poplar, they don't have the way to play for advantage, because that, like, the Poplar generates so much advantage just by putting stuff in the back row, because your cards now can activate like original, setting it as cost, essentially making it a free e-telly, so yeah. 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. Feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. The 3rd Cosmic's just insane right now. This should be at 3 somewhere in your list, some way, shape, or form right now, in my opinion. And then 3 Droplet. This card just really good in my opinion. Like, I definitely think that, like, I want to keep it in. The thing is like, Centurion and stuff like that, it definitely came up in my match versus Centurion. This is the reason why I won the match. Was I dropletted his Crimson Dragon. He wasn't able to respond. I just negate the Crimson Dragon. He can't, he's not going to be able to bring out any synchro monster. And then I was able to OTK him from there. So, and then the last 2 cards are Volcanic Scattershot and Rimfire. These didn't get sided in once. Most of my games don't go into time. The few games that did, it's all at awkward times. So like, sometimes, like, most of my game 3s had like 10 minutes left on the board. I felt like matches in this deck go really quickly. It just, like, it doesn't seem like this is really needed. As long as you're, like, well versed how to play around time when there's like 10 minutes left, I feel like you should be winning. But knowing when to go to battle phase, knowing when to continue to combo off, when to, like, push, when to go BP and then combo off, like, that's really important. Sometimes you just smack them with the 2500 witch if you can, and then you start comboing after, right? It's about playing smart, like, you don't want to be nibbed in that moment and then you don't know how to play around it and you can't attack for game and you're in a vulnerable position. You just go for the life points, that's my opinion. So yeah, I just feel like that this isn't going to be needed anymore going forward. It just didn't seem necessary. Yeah, it was just all awkward timing. So okay, so that is the deck profile. I want to talk about some things, some changes going forward we might be doing, and stuff like that. So let's go into it, or why I wasn't playing certain things. So we'll kind of get into that. We're gonna leave my top row of cards here. So Anima, honestly, this came down to just not having space, and like, I feel like this is a format that you should just be always playing around this, like, always. There's a lot of level 1 decks out here. The 2 best decks, Fire King and Pure Snake Eye, are hardcore level 1 decks, and then Voice also has access to level 1 monsters like Anima and stuff like that. So I would definitely be playing around this all the time. Don't be stuffing stuff in the blink zone right underneath. Also be careful what monsters you're giving to your opponent in the link column. If you have like a Heat Soul in your extra monster zone, they can make this and out it really easily, pointing to this, right? So you just be careful with that. This feels like unnecessary. Like, sometimes I missed it. There was definitely a few games where I missed it, but if we had like access code Celine in instead, I wouldn't have missed it. And I feel like I would love to squeeze these in. So I was playing Saturday, the day before locals, and I ended up cutting these because I actually didn't have access to the Raging Phoenix and the Zelantis the day before. So I was playing these, and then I cut them for the Raging Phoenix and Zelantis. Honestly, this is really insane, having access to both Promethean Princess and Celine. Celine's gonna be live all the time. Don't forget Droll's a spellcaster, as well as Witch is the spellcaster. So Droll's gonna, I mean, this is gonna be live like most of the time. And I just like having access to making her, like, honestly, link climbing and stuff, and then having access to like an access code that's a non-targeting pop is really big. So that's exciting. So we're gonna try to find a way to fit those back in. We have Salamine Great Sunlight Wolf. Honestly, you don't really need this card unless you're playing the Heat Soul. If you're not playing the Heat Soul, you don't need it, and I felt like it just, you know, this deck already, you know, goes in. DD Crow, this could be good going forward. But I feel like it's probably one of the more underwhelming hand traps right now. Something like the Bestials can be a lot better in a deck, especially this deck. I feel like the Bestials are better, and that's just straight up because they give you a body, and a lot of the decks that lose to the Bestials are like the lights and darks ones. So like, you know, DD Crow, yes, this is good against like Pearly or something like that, but like Pearly is just like, I don't know, moved out of the meta, really, so whatever. 1 for 1, you know, like I said, we need to bump up the hand traps. We kind of went over that. Subversion, I would love to fit this in somewhere, and then the original, we kind of went over that already. And then the last thing is, why am I playing Pure Snake Eye over this engine? So the thing is this engine is really, it adds a lot of ceiling to your deck. And then the thing is like, it, in my opinion, can be more vulnerable. It's more one-lined. Like, obviously you're playing the best of both worlds, but like, if you are drawing just your Fire King stuff, like if you draw just your Fire King stuff and no access to any of that, it is really bad. It is like, it's like you're playing the old version of the deck from a different format, and it can't keep up to the new version of the format. And I feel like that happens a lot more decks, so more often, sorry, it happens a lot more often, and you don't, I just don't want to play the weird lines, the weird combos, and the weird stuff that adds, when I can just play like all these cards as non-engine slots and essentially do the same thing, but you know, just play the power hand traps that stops you. I just feel like that's a lot better than playing this, and why we're going with the Pure Snake Eyes. And honestly, it's kind of proven to show, like, you know, there was way more Pure Snake Eyes in the top cut at my regional anyway. Yeah, so that's kind of what I have to say about the deck. We're going to be doing some changes. We'll keep you guys updated. Remember, we have the first place and second place deck profile from the regional I was at coming out in about a couple weeks, I think. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy. Please comment and like, subscribe. I really appreciate it. We'll see you guys later. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, all that kind of stuff really helps out. I really appreciate it. And down below you can see a list of things that are coming up.